This is considered the most difficult rescue person in Hollywood, from the movie to Rescue Benny Zion, Mark Watney, to From People on Mars. And 8 times he needed to be rescued. According to cost statistics, to save him it has reached 100 billion USD. Yes, he lived alone for more than 2 years on Mars, but it all relied on these tools. It can be said that on Mars, all gold socks his odds on Mars is completely accurate. How does the story continue from here? Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is the film recap, and today let's talk about The Martian. The story begins with an American Mars exploration mission. They have just finished building the basis base for research here. Suddenly, the mission signal center reported an upcoming storm. The storm moved at such a fast speed, causing people to not turn their hands react in time. Suggest people are in the entrenched base. The crew sheltered in the base, and the captain ordered everyone to go onto the spacecraft to evacuate. But they just finished wearing the shirt preparing when the storm came. The whole group risked their lives to cross through the storm to the spacecraft. The wind was getting stronger and stronger. Unfortunately, debris, the flying object, hit Mark, people knocking him away. Moreover, the signal from his outfit was lost. They thought he only lives no more than a minute here. Save losses can kill the whole group. He couldn't survive more than a minute, and waiting risked the whole crew. If delayed, the spacecraft would be knocked down by the storm. The heartbroken chief commanded everyone to leave. The spacecraft kept successfully launched amid the grief of the group. NASA also reported sad news about the sacrifices, his death, and announcing the crew will return to Earth after another year. But the truth is, Mark still miraculously survived. The hole on the outfit was too small, so it was allowed enough for him to breathe air. He tried to drag himself to the base. Painfully removed the antenna bar from his abdomen. The first thing to remove the steel from the abdomen. Then he used a paperclip pin to close the hemostatic wound. Now he accepted he was only by himself on Mars. The antenna about to the Earth was broken. He can only record the videos to encourage himself. This base is only designed enough for 31 more days of supplies, including oxygen, water, and food. Just thinking about this is enough to kill a person with weak spirit, could break a weaker person. But when he looked through the object supplies of his teammates had left, he was suddenly realized that he would not die here. Today is the Sol 21. He's starting to recalculate the entire amount of food. Food for the whole crew, left for the whole crew, is enough for about 400 days. If he wanted to live longer, was essential to have cultivation. Immediately, he emptied the toilet to get all the feces bags. He reinstalled solar panels batteries to get energy. He used the base for cultivation. He went out to get Mars soil and brought it inside. On the Sol 31, it was filled with the land into the room. He filled the room with soil. He peeled off the shit of everyone in the pocket and mixed with water. Mixed the crew's feces with water. So it is already possible to plant crops. But the biggest problem for crops is to have water. Having a headache, he was stuck, not knowing where to get water. Based on his 12th grade chemical knowledge, he knowing that burning hydrogen gas with oxygen will produce water. The theory is so simple, but until the practice is hard. Fortunately, the new need is a small amount, because the amount of excess oxygen has not been taken into account existed when he exhales CO2. The second time withdraws menstruation to wear protective clothes. He extracted oxygen from the atmosphere. As expected, the 12-year chemical formula was effective. The next morning, the water was filled with the ground, collected on the ground. Very quickly, everything is favorable, until Sol 54. Potato sprouts have sprouted on the face of Mars. The food problem was solved. But it is important now how to contact the planet. Contacting Earth was now critical. At the same time on Earth, they still did not know he was alive, and held the funerals for him. But the station staff at NASA discovered an abnormality. The base abandoned on Mars was obviously being used. Someone still changed. NASA immediately understood Mark was still alive. But flying to Mars would take 8 months. They feared Mark would starve before waiting for them to come back. In fact, Mark was living very well. The problem now was how to contact the Earth. According to their calculation, Mark will need to move 3,200 kilometers to reach the landing location of the next Mars mission. With the electric car on Mars, Mark will take up to 50 days of movement to reach it. Mark immediately tried to move, set out. At night in Mars is extremely cold, but turning on the heater device would drain the battery. So Mark thought of a way to stay warm, It is using an uranium-dull RTG radioisotope generator. Only thing that broke out, immediately he would die from darkness. The only risk was radiation. NASA at home also guessed Mark was heading Try-2 for the place of the Eris 4 mission. No, MAV, Mars Ascent Vehicle. They decided to launch a mission in to rescue Mark. The director immediately ordered Dr. Wong Venkat Kapoor made to prepare Hare-class supply missiles. Mark on this Saturday, Sol 119, has come to harvest potatoes. Big tubers eat small tubers, then replant. He ate the smaller potatoes and replanted the eyes. But it all would be meaningless if he could not contact NASA. Suddenly, he spotted an unmanned satellite from passing nearby. It was originally the Pathfinder, a satellite launched in 1997. So Mark drove the rover to the bridge to it to try and repair it. NASA, looking at the map, also knew the Mark's intention. Immediately, they also took out a similar probe satellite version at JPL home. Thanks to that, the two probe satellites and the frequency were broaded with each other could communicate. Mark knew this is fun, was progress. But this was an ancient satellite, since his time still taking off the barn, long obsolete. So he could use the rotating direction of the camera to communicate. Mechanism 16 then look up in SI2. He used hexadecimal code via the camera. Immediately, Under the Earth on Earth also understood and did the same. Now the two sides only relied on the camera's rotation. Mark looked up the first message, "How are you?" From there, they instructed Mark to correct the rover's car programming. Thanks to that, the two sides could text directly. On the other hand, the Hermes spacecraft of the Explorer had left Mars for 120 days. At this time, NASA told them Mark was alive, and in 700 days later, when the rescue ship would come to Mars, he needed supplies. Mark on Mars was about to harvest the second crop of potatoes. Looking at the results, he thinks everything would be butterflies, fine. At this time, the most difficult thing happened. An unexpected tear in the hab led to a pressure power loss, causing the explosion of the potato base farm. Mark's outfit was also punctured. The oxygen level was decreasing rapidly, near to zero. He hurriedly used tape to patch the hole temporarily. Looking at the potato farm growing room now frozen. Potatoes were also all dead clean. What will the food source are not enough for 700 days? His food wouldn't last 700 days. Mark angrily smashed things in vain. NASA also knows Mark was only stocked living well for another 400 days. The teammates saw that also seeing this encouraged him. In despair and extreme stress, Mark still smiled. Where did we lie down land there? Mark was not desperate. He too used tape to repair the hab room. Then he used the remaining air to fill the air to try and plant other crops. But the atmosphere inside, weather above, was very unstable. Mark must carefully calculate rations for each potato. The worst-case scenario meant May only eating 1/3 rations every day. All the previous diet's rations were divided into 3 smaller meals hours again. But under the center of NASA, back at NASA, the rescue spacecraft has not been prepared. They only decided to launch a cabin probe filled with food to supply him. But a flying missile launch had encountered an explosion. It is considered that $1 billion have left the surface. The $1 billion probe was lost. Today was Sol 186. Mark knew the news of changing the corruptness about the failed supply probe and felt extremely desperate. He thought about death here. At this moment, the CNSA, China National Space Administration, the ship of Chinese aviation, offered their booster. They decided to lend NASA to their missiles. On the other hand, aerospace scientific student Rich Pernell, John Ann, has had an important idea. He had a way to shorten the time to fly to Mars for 3 months. It was involved using the Hermes spacecraft itself to slingshot around Earth, using its gravity to gain speed up and fly around the Earth, like a spin with centrifugal force. This would increase its speed up twice. But the Mars exploration group would have to fly over more than 500 days extra. It was a gamble poll of 6 lives to save a single life. But even a small mistake in a whole team would die immediately. Hearing this, Michael, Commander Lewis, immediately registered, agreed. Then the other members excitedly decided to save their lives. Immediately, all the format's preparations are ready. The missile of the ship brings up the supplies. Chinese booster launched the supplies successfully. The Merit of the Hermes spacecraft performed the slingshot. Shortly thereafter, the whole crew rushed back to Mars. On Sol 461, when this was so thin, Mark's supplies were critically low. The job now was to pack all his furniture gear. He put the car drove the rover to move to the rescue location. Just like that, until Sol 494, he had gone tens of thousands of kilometers on Mars. On Sol 538, he arrived at the rescue location. The place where the MAV Fed was located released so that he could fly up into the atmosphere. But NASA discovered a problem. The Macadamia MAV head would be too heavy for Mark's intercept. To be able to fly into the atmosphere, make a transplant for spacecraft, rendezvous with Hermes, they needed to lighten the MAV drastically. Dr. Wong Kapoor suggested removing all the nose cone bow into the window. Use only one tarpaulin to cover the top of the rocket and fly up. Sounds like a smile crazy, but was no other way. Just like that, the MAV rocket is removed of everything. This launch, on Sol 549, on 560, the Hermes spacecraft approached Mars. Mark also made himself the last rations meal. Goodbye, the legendary Hab Santa Fe has gone nearly half of the fire. He suited up, returned to the spacecraft to reconstruct beauty. If you die, you must be a handsome ghost. Below the Earth on Earth, millions of people thrilled to watching the rescue. He, wore the spacesuit outfit of the cow to wait. Honestly, he has been waiting for this moment for a long time. His British teammates are about to attempt the pickup notice. The ship's ship, MAV, has also launched smoothly. But it couldn't take the silver she could not bear it, accelerated brutally. Extremely powerful launch G-forces broke his helmet visor fog. But its speed was still constantly increasing. The acceleration was too large, causing him to fainting. At this time, NASA staff were extremely worried. But they could not help because the distance was too far. Everything happened to be 12 minutes ago compared to what they saw on the Earth. But the rescue process has had only 12 minutes only. The two sides craft reached the estimated distance height. But the relative speed now was up to 42 meters per second, 42 meters high for seconds. This speed cannot be made, was too high to catch him. The chief immediately thought of a way immediately. He decided to vent break a fuel chamber of the spacecraft on Hermes, creating an explosion, taking advantage of the explosion force to slow Hermes down. With an extremely strong destructive force, the explosion slowed the spacecraft down by 12 meters per second. The chief released out of the space, hoping to summarize his eyes reach Mark. But the length of the tether string is limited. There was still a distance between them. At this time, Mark, the Awakening, made a surprised, desperate decision. He pierced a hole one side of the glove in through his outfit glove, using escaping air as thrust. Testing force exhausted as a thrust, like anyone who doesn't fly. To the captain, he has overcome thousands of difficulties. But the result was. Fortunately, he still caught the captain's tether rope. The two of them tried to stop, clutched, hugging each other. This minute wire moment, he can only say a word. I'm happy. 600 days of misery to the future were over. He had finally returned to the shore home. The people who swinging at the same time, watching worldwide, are happy. This film is suitable for young people, because it taught you that regardless of any desperate situation, there will always is an opportunity, as long as your will is not missed. Even though under the sky of Mars, he can still plant potatoes. The movie ends here. If you found it interesting, do not forget to watch the channel for other movies, and like and subscribe so you don't miss my new videos. If you have any recommendation for other films I should do, just leave it in the comment. Thanks for watching, and see you again in the next videos.